Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Hope
sir. Good evening.
everyone, good evening. Okay, so we're gonna jump directly into the topic. Today's topic is a core topic in any management activity. When you talk a manager, you're talking someone who leads, someone who deals with people. And as such, this module is a very important part of any management class or any management degree, an MBA or others. It's regarding human factors. In the end, we are running organizations which are working to serve humans. In the end, our clients are humans, and our business is run by humans for humans. So that's why the human factor is a critical part in any business. We need to understand what motivates humans, what demotivates them, how to manage them, how do they behave. So the human behavioral theory. And then we're starting with the humans, and we are all the businesses that are there in the world are done in a way or another to serve human beings. And in a way or another, they're run by human beings as well. So the human beings are a critical factor of any business transaction because the ultimate goal is to serve people. So the human factors views occupants and as part as IFMA. So we're considering the occupants or visitors of the building. Let's say you have a hospital, you have a restaurant, you have a hotel. You're dealing with occupants or visitors. Also, you have your employees. So the employees of your organization, the employees of the client, and so on. So the human factor competency views occupants and employees as a sustainable resource. It is as critical to the organization as energy and water resources, materials, and processes. It is more important than that because in the end, you can have a very good business or a very good machinery, and I've seen that, and which is not run by a proper team, and then you end up with a disaster, even if you invest billions of dollars. On the other hand, you can have very humble organizations which have the right manpower, which can do miracles. We've seen in this age how small entrepreneurs with a big dream and a hope have managed to change the world in which we live in, starting from Facebook, Microsoft, and so on. So another important factor to consider is that by far, even from a cost perspective, the largest cost component during the life cycle of a building is the salaries and benefits of occupants. A workplace is effective. So when we're talking about as a facility management, which is handling our own organization, which is serving the organization, our goal is to provide an effective workplace. An effective workplace is one that to the degree it fulfills the needs and expectations of its occupants and visitors. So an effective workplace or an effective hotel or an effective hospital is that which really, from a facility management point of view, is that which fulfills the needs and expectations of its occupants and visitors. Inside the hospital, the doctor is expecting to have a clean facility, a safe environment, proper air conditioning system which take control of the pathogens, a clean environment, continuous power supply with the continuous services. So this is the expectations of a doctor. Same way, your expectations when you go to a hotel, you're looking to a certain level of cleanliness, you're looking to a certain level of amenities in which you use for you to enjoy your time. Again, whatever it is, if it's a school, you're expecting a certain thing, you're expecting a classroom with a proper and comfortable air conditioning, with proper access, proper utilization, no sound, and so on. So a workplace is effective to the degree it fulfills the need and expectations of its occupants and visitors. Also, which support work processes. So again, we talked about the work processes. So the work processes, let's say a surgeon needs to do his surgery. So he needs, for that support, he needs to have continuous power. And for that, the facility management is involved so that the performance goals can be met, and does all that in a cost-effective manner. So we're talking about effectiveness and efficiency. Efficiency is related to cost. We will be covering this concept again and again. The difference between being effective and being efficient. We've covered that in the communication module, if you remember. Effective face-to-face communication is effective, but is it efficient? No, because you cannot, for every message that you want to pass, to go and do a face-to-face call, so you have to be efficient. So this principle, you have to add the effectiveness to the efficiency. There are different tools that can be used. So this is not an exact science. Human sciences are not exact sciences. There are always theories on what motivates people. And these things are dynamic. They change with the time. They're not like physics. Physics 1 + 1 = 2, and math. There are hardcore principles. In human management, it's not the same. Some people, if you give them an increase in salary, they will be motivated. Others, they're looking for more than that. Others, maybe if you talk to them nicely, that's enough for them. So it's not, we are individuals. There are 7-point-something billion people on this planet, and these 7-point-something billion people are individual in their own. There are general rules and guidelines which rule their behavior, but then again, there are also many differences, and that's what makes us unique. One of the tools that is utilized in management in general, we've covered and hit around that during the sustainability session, but now we're going to look more into it. It's what we call the balance scorecard. What's a balance scorecard? In a typical assessment of a business, usually the goal of a business is to generate profit. So that's why usually the primary measure of a business is in its financial success. Did you achieve your sales target? Do you achieve your budget, net profitability, and so on? But what has been found throughout the years, and that's why they came with something called the balance scorecard, is that for you to secure the continuity of the business, you need not only look at the financial success. Because what happens, let's say I'm a company, let's say, which is taking the facility management of a hotel. For me, if I'm looking only at financial success, let's say I took the subcontract to manage the facilities. I took it at, let's say, 2 million riyals. For me to save, I start, for example, reducing the frequency of the maintenance schedules. I start reducing the number of manpower. I start going for cheaper suppliers. That might result, it might result in immediate financial gain. At the end of the year, I will gain. But on the long term, I may get complaints from visitors. I may get also complaints from the employees. Let's say if I squeeze the employees too much and stretch them. So that's why this thing that's known as the balance scorecard came as a tool to balance different aspects of the business. So this one doesn't only measure the financial performance. The balance scorecard looks usually at 4 sides of a business. We look at the people, we look at the customer, we look at the processes which we utilize, and we look at finance. So this is usually in modern organizations, managers, and even to the level of HR and your performance goals in many modern organizations is not related only on the financial process. When we go and evaluate a manager, we don't only evaluate, of course, this is a balanced scorecard and you can put more weight on the financial process. For example, this can be a 70% of the goal performance to be related to financials. But there should be a complete vision. So not only the financial process, we want to see how this manager is really improving the value added for the customers, the learning and growth on his own team, how he or she is developing their own team, and the processes, the way the business is done. What is he or she doing to improve the efficiency of the processes that they are handling? So this is what we call a balanced scorecard. When we talked about efficiency and effectiveness, so this is what the second analytic framework derived from the works of Francis Duffy, the founder of DEGW. So it's a strategy plus group with AECOM. You know, AECOM is the biggest engineering company in the world. he proposed that a workplace that truly works, in the sense a workplace that is fully functional, is one that balances efficiency, effectiveness, and expression. As I said previously, when we're talking about efficiency, we're talking about the cost factor. So we want to provide an efficient, effective workplace. We talk about effective to what degree it gets the job done. So efficiency refers to the optimal use of workflows for workspace from a cost perspective. Effectiveness refers to the degree to which the workplace supports productivity by enabling occupants' performance. And expression refers to the way in which the workplace articulates the values and goals of the organization and its members. What does that mean? So efficiency, if I have an open workfloor space, and let's say I want to be efficient, I want to look only at the efficient aspect, I will say, okay, each individual needs 1.5 square meters. So if I have 1,500 square meters, I can place 1,000 people inside. This is a very mechanical way to look at things. It will not really work because, okay, it can be efficient. I'm cramming everyone in their space, but is it effective? In a way, is it providing each worker, let's say some people need to focus more. Some people need to have meetings with clients. So the way I'm designing the workplace, because a facility manager also is involved in the design of how the offices are located, who sits next to what, which division is next to what division. So this effectiveness, so we have to take both into consideration. So if I take only efficiency into consideration, I will not reach my goals. If I take only effectiveness, so effectiveness, an effective workplace, let's say, I can be very effective if everyone in the building gets their own office. Everyone gets their own office with their own amenities, with their own whatever they can do and focus for sure. But again, is this an efficient way? Sure not. It will create lots of overheads for the company. It will create lots of electricity bills, which will make it more expensive. So we need to balance this efficiency and effectiveness. And the third factor we consider is the expression. Expression, in the sense an effective workplace should reflect what the organization is about. If you have been to an office, let's say to a creative agency, to a media advertising agency, you will see that the workplace will be colorful. It will reflect the business. If you go for a bank, for example, you find it like very serious atmosphere. If you go to a jewelry shop, you will find it a very luxurious atmosphere. Similarly, if you go to a technology company such as Google, you will find it again very flamboyant, full of colors and so on. So these three factors need to be there. An effective, a workplace that works is the workplace which combines the three together. An important issue that you need to consider wherever you're doing as a facility manager is that you should be aware of the compliance obligations related to building codes, signage, fire detection and suppression, indoor air quality, national and local laws, and others. So, for example, in Qatar, we have the legal requirement of the compliance with the Qatar civil defense. It's not the same in different countries. Different countries have different requirements. But in Qatar, only as a basis, you are supposed to have to meet a certain, the building should be approved by the civil defense. It should have a certain number of doors. It should have a certain number of fire-rated doors. Depending on the area, it should have a certain number of sprinklers for the firefighting system. It should have a certain type of escape ladders, and so on. And that can change also depending on the nature of the business. If you are managing a school facilities, for example, they have their own set of requirements, and these are compliance regulations mandated by law. In other countries, it's even more advanced than the minimum requirement here. In some countries, for example, they can specify the distance between workstations and exterior windows. There should be a certain percentage of natural light coming into the building. In Qatar, for example, if you're managing labor accommodation, there is again a certain guideline on the number of square meters for each individual and the type of facilities that you should, like the number of toilets per person and so on. Even, for example, here, if you are running offices or restaurants, you should have a certain area and a certain number of toilets to the square area. And these change from one country to the other. And this is something that a facility manager should be familiar with. Another aspect to consider is the human factor in the workplace is that we need comfort. We are seeking comfort. Comfort is not only meaning luxury. If I'm not comfortable, okay, then I'm not able to focus on my job. Or if I'm an employee, or if I'm a visitor, let's say I'm a visitor to a mall. Would you think that a mall visitor would be happy to have like the temperature set at 28 degrees? They will feel hot and they will not spend time in your place. Similarly, those who are sitting in your hotel, they will rate you very badly and they will likely never to come again. And so on and so on and so on. So humans seek comfort, and this is something that you need to understand it. Comfort is an essential ingredient for productivity. If you are not comfortable, you are not productive. If you are sitting and sweating all the time, you're not able to produce results. So numerous studies have shown that occupants are not as productive when they are physically uncomfortable. Those error rates increase and attention spans decrease. Again, comfort is not only physical. Of course, there's a physical comfort part of it, like my desk should be comfortable, the temperature should be set comfortable, the quality of the air should be, let's say, can you sit in a building where can you focus where you have roadworks next to you, or where a building where, for example, the genset is very close and it's continuously humming, you will not be comfortable. So comfort is not physical in the sense that affecting your five senses. It also has an emotional and cognitive dimension as well. What does that mean? If you enter an office space, let's say, or even a hall of a hotel, and you see all these open spaces, why do they do that in hotels? Why do you see the mall, for example? It's not efficient only. The mall is not efficient. If you look at the area of the mall, you can say, oh, there is no need, we just need shops. If you go to the biggest malls here, you see like huge areas. Why these huge areas are there? Why there are themes, for example, in Villaggio Mall? It's because it appeals to the cognitive dimension of that, the emotional dimension. You want to feel a place where you can have like this open space. Open space lets your eyes relax, let you spend more time in the place. The goal usually when designing and building, let's say, a mall, the goal of the designer is to make sure you stay the maximum time there. The more time you stay at a mall, the more likely that you are going to spend. And this is the goal of the mall. So this is the purpose for it. Similarly, when you go to a university, you see that the more elaborate universities, they will have these nice settings which entice people to study. And so they are appealing to the emotional sense as well. So productive workplaces are effective at accommodating the wide range of occupant needs that result in comfort, from obvious physical requirements to more subtle related to social and emotional comfort. A very typical example on the comfort and those which has been made science is Google. I don't know if you guys have looked at Google offices. I advise you when we finish the course today that you go and Google a little bit the Google offices. Google found out that for them, they want their people to stay as much as possible and do the coding inside their buildings. So they have really went and above and beyond in providing. If you look at their offices, we have them in some of the other slides. I'm not sure if in this one or other. You will see that they are very colorful places. They have even a play area. Google, you can take your laundry to them and they will do your laundry and give it back. They provide free food. They provide a lot of space for you to sit down and talk to each other. They provide some zoning areas where you can go and sit on your own. Why all of this is done? All of this is done because they are, first of all, they are the employees of Google. They want to give them an environment that they are still like in the college. In the college, you are taking your laptop, sitting everywhere and working. Plus, they want the employees not to worry about their laundry, not to worry about their lunch, not to worry about everything. Even if you want to steam out the pressure, you can go to the playroom and relax. It is known also, for example, in the Japanese culture, like some offices will have beds where you can go and have a nap and come back to be more effective. So the need of comfort is very important, and some organizations, many organizations are realizing the importance of that. That's why you find now many offices which have couches, and these act as like social places where people can talk, chat, and because that's also an integral part of work. One of the important psychologists globally and who has set a behavioral, yes, Ahmed.
Excuse me, I have a question. The need of comfort. Actually, this, from my point of view, this is ideal. Yani, we cannot guarantee. Yani, in the construction field, for instance, yani, if you are working in construction field, I cannot make need of comfort for the laborers who are working in the construction through the dust, through the sand, like that. I cannot afford.
Fine, fine. Do you need to provide an environment for your draftsman? Do you need to provide him with a comfortable space?
Yeah, yes, this is an issue. Yeah, yeah. There is office and there is work site. Site work I cannot, but office is okay, of
We are talking about facilities. Construction, they are constructing the facilities. It's not their permanent work.
Meaning to say this excluding it, yeah, facility as a facility. It can be also for client, but for work in the site, I think it is cannot be practical.
This is a construction, not about facility. Once the facility is built, okay, even your people, your management, you work in a construction company?
Yes, construction field, yes.
Okay, where is your office located, head office? Where is your head of finance located? Why they're not located on site?
There is located in the Salam Tower. Yeah, there is a building tower. The head office.
So they are located in a place where they can focus, where they can have meetings, where they can have this with a comfort, right?
Of course, yeah, of course, yes.
So, for example, you cannot tell me that people who are working on the rig, on the oil and gas, are not comfortable. This is not what applies to them. We're talking about an office space. We're talking about a built environment. So, facility management is to secure the operation of the built environment, right?
Not construction site or something like that. I'm excluding. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. So, we're talking about a workplace here. We're talking about offices. We're talking about a built environment. We're talking about office space, we're talking about a mall, we're talking about a hospital, we're talking about a hotel, we're talking about a stadium. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Ammar?
It's just comment about this, the need comfort. From my experience, my working place was with my team. We was very small, was very tiny, and this was like what we can say, it was affecting to my team performance. Yani their KPI were very bad. Their response time, it was bad. Airflow, and this was affecting to the health of my team. In that time, I request from my higher management to shift us to like more larger and wider space. And thank God, the response to my request, and we moved to a larger and wider space. What I noticed after that, that their performance, their response, the KPI, all that, it's become much better, and even their health, their health from the psychological side, or even from the mentality or everything, it's became much better. And sure, this is what I'm talking about, my experience about this need of comfort.
For sure. That's why organizations go and select different offices. They seek to be effective. Of course, if the cost plays a role, they seek to be effective. Also, they seek to have a certain kind of expression. So when you're taking an office in a certain, for example, he mentioned a Salam Mall. This is, again, an expression by the organization that we are at a certain level. You understand me? So if you take, for example, an office in the Pearl or in a prominent place, you're also expressing where you are. And of course, the efficiency, the feeling of the people, if you are working in a porta cabin full-time, or it's different than if you are working in a proper office where you have access to different amenities.
Yes.
Okay, so Yeah, today's session is a bit heavy, so I need to be moving on. So Maslow is a very important psychologist, and he came with a theory which is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What does Maslow's hierarchy of needs say? It says it's that the human needs are shaped like a pyramid, and this is the pyramid in which we are shaped. Okay, and that hierarchy of needs, this Maslow hierarchy of needs, applies to everything. It's what moves us. It says on the bottom level, we have the physiological needs. We have the needs for food, water, warmth, rest, as well as the basic needs, is what we call them, as the safety needs and security. What does that mean? It means that if you are hungry or not able to provide for yourself, you're really not going to look at the way you progress at work, at how efficient you are. If you are seeking survival, you will not look at the other things. If you are, let's say, lacking security in a place of war or whatever, you are not able to look into other things. So this applies also to human motivation. So it says at the lower level, a workplace should provide the basic needs, and these are called must-have. So Maslow's general rule, but in the case of facilities, that a must-have of a company is to provide comfort, safety, appearance, cleanliness. Can you imagine entering a workplace which is dirty? You will not really like it. Or a workplace with poor seating, poor lighting, poor ventilation, poor HVAC. You will not be as effective. And it says that at the second level, what we have is that we start looking at our psychological needs. Once we have these needs, basic needs satisfied, then we can start looking for feelings of belonging, love, intimate relationship, friendship, and then esteem needs. We start looking, we see how we are going higher and higher in what we are looking at. We're looking at the prestige and a feeling of accomplishment. We're looking at self-actualization. It sees that achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. So the human needs follow this upward need, okay? And if you don't have the basic needs fulfilled, you cannot look at luxury. For example, you cannot be looking at caring much about the quality of a certain, let's say, if you're having a valet parking service or not, you will not think about it in the office if you don't have the basic needs of comfort, if you don't have the basic office, a basic place with proper ventilation and cooling. Once you have this achieved, then you go into higher and higher things. So we go from the must-have to the nice-to-have. Nice-to-have like a bike storage, gym, coffee shop, some cafeteria, community spaces. It means areas where we can sit down and talk, conference room reservations, daycares. And then on the top, the cool perks that like dry cleaning, food discounts, and so on. So this again is a thing that companies which respect themselves, guys, this is not like in nuclear physics. All the big companies look into these aspects. The IBM, the Microsoft, and naturally local companies follow those in that, is that they start with the basics must-haves, then they go to the nice to have and to the cool perks. Some, as I said, like Google, have made a science out of it, and they go to the top of the extreme. And that's why their people are one of the best in the world, because they select the best talent and they retain the best talent. And that's why they are number one in their field. Humans and change. A funny thing about the human beings is that we resist change. Why we resist change? We resist change because this is a natural human tendency. Some have it more than others. We like to go to comfort thing. This is my cup. This is the way I drink my coffee. This is the habit. This is my office. I like my office next to the door. I like my office next to the window. I know people who have been in the same office for the last 20 years. Even if you offer them a better office, they will resist it. So it depends. So the tricky thing about change is that change, as they say, is the only constant. So this is an irony, because if you want to improve someone, you have to change. If you want to improve a workplace, you have to change. So there's an irony in the fact that FM must usually implement change to improve the way the human factor is addressed in its facility. So unless conditions are very bad, change is often perceived in a negative way. So managing change is a key part of any management. That's why in management courses, change is a very important aspect, because whatever improvement you're going to make, whatever plan you're going to make, it will involve change. Even occupants resistance, for example, a simple example is if you want to improve traffic in a place, in a country, you have to build roads. So you are doing a change. When you make change, this change is disruptive. It will create noise, traffic for some time. So people complain from that. But how can we reach the last level without going through this change process? Similarly applies to the office settings. So occupants' resistance to change is understandable because some changes interfere with human needs. Attachment to familiar surroundings is driven by a basic need for a sense of security and survival. That's why you find us usually going through the same road to work, using the same, reading the same newspaper, and so on. Managing change is a very important aspect. A facility manager can help implement change by supporting occupants through the change process. So even let's say you are managing a building, okay, and you want to install, the people were complaining that there are no shaded areas for the parking. Then you say that, okay, we will install shades all over. Even that is a change, and that can create noise temporarily, can create some discomfort, and so on. So if you understand the supporting occupants through the changes, you have to understand that people are having a fear of loss, let's say in the sense of offices when you are changing and shifting. Like, for example, I like my current office. I have a proper parking space. Mistrust of superiors. Too much change is not a good thing. Sometimes people who go through frequent change is good, but too much frequent change creates instability. You have companies which continuously change management. That's not a good sign. That's a sign of poor management. So there are certain things to do to manage properly the change. Is that you have to listen, first of all, to the people and face possible conflict head on. Provide as much information as front as possible. So for example, that's why you find like it's better that if you want to do a certain, for example, you want to upgrade the power grid and then you go and shut down the power of the building. If you do it unannounced, you're going to have much more backlash than if you provide much information. You tell them, okay, on so and so date, proper facility management companies do that. On so and so date, we're going to come to your house and we're going to inspect the fire alarm system, or we're going to come and install new screens for the mosquitoes, or we're going to come and do cleaning of your HVAC ducts. So when you're providing more information as upfront, you're able to get the buy-in of the tenants. Focus on the reasons of change and benefits to the organizations. Listen to occupants. Negotiate solutions if necessary. So for example, someone will tell you, look, no, for example, I'm not available on so and so date, or for example, I'm happy with what I have, maybe you accept it. Engage occupants by gathering input through questionnaires and focus groups. Use post-occupancy evaluations to identify unanticipated effects. Avoid, I think to avoid is ignoring occupants' reactions to change, including their emotional responses. You have to listen. That's why when we talked about communication, we talked about effective listening, active listening. Active listening is an important tool. Do not ignore people when they come with a complaint. Listen to them. Avoid lying, over promising. This is sometimes some companies do that and some people do that. They say, oh, no, we're going to install this new parking system for you and we're going to do it only in 4 days. And then they end up doing it in 2-3 months. And the people really will become, so when you are over promising or engaging in unfounded optimism, you will be not properly managing expectations. You need to manage expectations. Another thing to avoid is asking open-ended questions when you are seeking occupant input. For example, let's say when you are shifting people from one office to the other, let's say you are telling them, okay, what do you like to add to your things? If you are asking an open-ended question, that will leave it to so much interpretation. In that cases, be careful from where you can start. Maybe you have a limited budget, you have limited options, okay? So ask close-ended questions. Do you want this or that? For example, we have an extra space. Do Do you want us to put a cafeteria there, a coffee machine there, or you want us to put a lounge couch there? So this is like 1, 2, 3 options rather than what do you like us to put in that area. Creating a healthful, productive workspace. If you remember, I mentioned it before. One of the top complaints of people inside occupants is the temperature. Look how much it is higher to the others. People complain usually that the temperature is too hot or too cold. Then you have other complaints. And this is one of the top, not only for indoor air quality, the general experience of occupants inside a building. Usually this is the #1 complaint. So the cleanliness is also another one. So indoor environment quality refers to the strategies and systems used to provide occupants with a healthful, comfortable, and safe workplace. And the IEQ generally focuses on temperature and relative humidity. The vast majority of occupants' complaints tend to be about the difficulty of achieving a comfortable temperature. Indoor air quality. Indoor air quality, we mentioned it in the sustainability, that the air inside is 3, 4, 5 times more polluted than the air outside. So the indoor air quality is an important thing. We have to ensure that there is proper circulation, and that we have to ensure that there is an avoidance of the volatile organic compounds, VOCs, which are chemicals which are harmful to health. So your choice of cleaning chemicals and your choice of material that you use for paint and so on can affect the quality of the air, the toxicity of it, and the effect on the residents or the visitors. Another important thing is lighting. So we talked about initially temperature and relative humidity. We talked about the indoor air quality. Lighting. Lighting is a very important consideration. So proper organizations measure even the quantity of lumens that you have in your office, because a dimmed quality. So we are again talking about not an ideal situation. We're talking about the best. When we are trying to design something, we try to design to the best in the industry and the best of the practices. We're not here just to manage for the sake of management. IFMA is providing us with an ideal way, not an ideal way, with the best practices. These are not ideal and philosophical. Many organizations adopt them. If you go to a hotel, you will find that you don't think it's calculated, but everything is calculated. If you enter a Carrefour, for example, the amount of light which is available in Carrefour is calculated. Why? Because there have been research. There's a total science in marketing, which is called consumer behavior. That's why you think first of all, a Carrefour will never have lighting, external lighting. Why? Because they don't want you to feel that there is a change in time. You will never find a clock or a watch inside a mall. Never. Because they want you to lose track of time. The goal is for them to let you spend the maximum time there. Even the layout of the shelves inside a Carrefour is designed in such a way that it will let you buy more. For example, diapers and baby needs are usually put in the end. Why? Because these are necessities. If you are a father of a child, you will go and search for that product. Whereas you will not maybe go and search for the candy. That's why, for example, the candy are at the checkout, so that they're trying to induce you to buy more. So similarly, inside an office things, the lighting is very important. Proper lighting and proper mixed from natural light and a proper lumens that doesn't include glare. Too much light will include glare and will be harmful to the eyes, and too less light will be very dim. Sometimes you enter a place and you feel claustrophobic. You feel that you just want to exit this place. This might be due to the improper design of lighting. A proper workplace or a proper hospital or a proper restaurant or a proper mall or a proper hotel will have the right amount of lighting. Noise is a very important factor. Noise is considered unwanted sound that can harm health and impair productivity. You will not be productive if you're sitting in a place where you have someone drilling with a jackhammer outside your window. You need a comfortable place, a quiet place for you to focus and to be productive. Cleanliness is again a very important aspect. If you enter a place with a nice smell, that's why when you enter hotels, you see, first of all, in the lobby, the design of the building itself is spacious. It's taking care of your visual comfort. It has flowers, fresh flowers. If you enter any five-star hotel in Doha, you will find fresh flowers. Even the smells that are there are not there arbitrarily. The smells that are there are designed to let you relax. Similarly, in shopping outlets like retail, lighting is important. Smells are important because there have been certain research on certain smells like the citrus smells that induce consumer behavior. Also, the choice of music. You never enter a place and you find like slow, dim music. Like when you go to a trendy place, you find that they're putting upbeat music. All of this is a science, and all of this is not arbitrary. There's a separate topic. It's called consumer behavior, and they're trying to let you purchase more. Factors contributing to wellness. Okay, so wellness of the people is very important because in the end you are in charge of the wellness of the people from an ethical perspective. Plus, you know, the people are your, how do you say, your golden goose. You know the story of the golden goose. If you let the golden goose lay more eggs than its capacity, it's going to die. So you need to take care of your people from an ethical perspective and from an efficiency perspective. That's why we have a 1 day or a 2 day weekend. That's why we have vacation days. So that because we are not machines, we need time to relax, and the wellness of people is very important. If you let the people overwork, overstress, they're not going to be efficient. And then the company will not achieve its financial goals and so on. So that's why an important factor is managing stress at work. So stress is one of the biggest diseases of the century. And this is an important thing. So there is the psychological stress and there's the physical stress in the way you sit. Another thing is ergonomics. What's ergonomics? Ergonomics is defined as the study of equipment design in order to reduce operator equipment fatigue and discomfort. What is ergonomics? Everything that you utilize around you has been designed for you. My watch is designed to be of a certain size to fit on my hand. Why it's not like 15 centimeters wide? Because the human hand is typically this size, 50 mm, 5 centimeter or 4 centimeter. The size of your mobile, it's designed to fit your hand. Okay, so all of this is ergonomics. Even the seating is designed in such a way to support your lower back and things like that. So ergonomics is the study of equipment design in order to reduce equipment fatigue and discomfort. Whatever tool that you utilize, you will find that it has been designed and studied to fit your hands, to fit your reach. For example, the car which you drive is designed in such a way where it's within reach. All the buttons are within reach. No one will put a button on the back side and you have to press it. So all of this is designed in such a way for you to operate and reduce the discomfort. And you will not find, for example, the wheel having square, the steering wheel having a square thing. No, it's round and it's comfortable for you to hold. Even the material which they utilize is designed to reduce your fatigue. Similarly, for the office space that you are utilizing, the offices are designed of a certain height, of a certain adjustment so that it fits you as a human being, and to reduce the stress from prolonged sitting on your bones, on your back, and so on. Health maintenance, or in a way in which a workplace can support or discourage healthy practices. So even in the procedure in which you operate things, you can support or discourage healthful practices. In one company in which we used to operate, they used to keep always a bowl of fresh fruits at the reception, so that to encourage people rather than to snack on junk food, to take an apple or whatever. So they're caring of the well-being of their employees. Some companies provide discount, for example, on gym membership. The HR will go and do that, and they do that out of the aim to maintain this. It changes from one company to the other. Companies provide healthcare benefits. Some even companies provide psychological assistance. where you can go and call a number if you are stressed and so on. All of this organizations do because it's very difficult to find and retain good talent. And they do it because it's a proper investment. It's not only about perks. If you have someone who's comfortable in the organization, who's happy on the organization, who has a feeling of belonging to the organization, they will produce more effectively than someone who is just coming by to pass days, get salary, and go home. Yes, Krishna.
Boss, I just have a doubt regarding this. Basically, I am into facility management. I'm managing 2 towers in Kolkata. So my concern is usually we have just taken over the tower from some other company. So there are a set of facilities which is provided to us, the new people like the office staff for us. So this stuff, whatever you have mentioned regarding the ergonomics and all these, chair and all the facilities, whatever we could use, is already been there. But if we want to improvise something, in case if the client is not approving for that, will there be any kind of financial support the HR has to provide? Or if there is a financial budget specifically for the comfort of the staff? So do you have any comment on that? Usually
it depends on your organization. And if I have in my organization someone from the team asking, let's say, for a more comfortable chair and office desk and things like that, we will not hesitate to do it immediately.
Okay. So it is basically everything is under the HR, right? The comfort and the staff health, everything is covers under the HR, right? So what is exactly a facility manager like me supposed to do? That basically whatever I am requesting to the head of HR, they will be saying it has to be get from the client side. And if there is a no, there is not a specific consideration is being taken from the HR side. So how we can approach them? Is there any financial budget? Usually, all the company has to follow, which I can I can push towards the company.
Here, it's not regulated by law. In other countries, some things are regulated by law. In the States, you can go and sue your employer if they're not providing a comfortable workplace. Here, it's not like that. So, and it depends from one organization to the other. Some organizations have it as part of the HR integrated with the facility management, because facility management is seen as someone who is serving the organization, okay? And they are supposed to provide the needs and translate the requirements of HR to reality. So in your case, I don't know what's the situation. And maybe let's say you are asking the client, here you're talking about the contracting. You're talking about facility management in terms of a contracting and outsource. You're not talking about you managing your own facilities, okay? And let's say you want your own offices. Maybe the client will not provide it, but in the end, your company is making money out of this, right?
Yes. So that is the specific stuff I want to know. Will there be basically, my company is an IFMA started company. Even though, if in case I want to push them to provide these facilities for my staff, will there be a usual financial budgeting on a yearly basis? There is this much amount has to be provided for the betterment of the.
This depends on each organization. If it's a respectful organization, let me not put it this way. Yeah, good organizations take good care of their employees. Okay. Some organizations really don't care much about. That's why you have this varying preferred employer, they call them, like a preferred employer. People will prefer to go and work for employer A, B, C, or D. If you go now for Glassdoor, for example, or Indeed, you will find like whenever you're applying for a job, the people rate the employer because they take care, depends on what, there is no regulation forcing them to do that. So it's something that we do decide, which the organization.
So basically, in our Qatar labor law, there is no such amendments that this has to be followed by the employer. This is the financial budget has to be released for the well-being of the staff, for their abilities, nothing like that.
Even in other organizations, maybe there's some budget for the HR. There is budget for the office space. There is budget for the facilities and upgrades. See, some companies will provide even more than that. And some companies will provide outings, for example, for employees. 2-3 times per year. Some companies, we go and celebrate birthdays of employees whenever there's a birthday. This is an organizational culture, right?
Yes.
There is nothing mandating company A to go and take them. So this is where a good employer comes in place, and this is where you motivate your people more, and this is where the people will say, oh, look, this other company, everyone on their birthday, they're providing them a cake and doing this, or so on. Okay?
Okay, boss. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Ammar, anything related to this? Otherwise, I need to move. There is not much time today.
Sorry. Regarding to managing the stress and yes, managing the stress and the health maintenance.
Yes.
Which department of the company they usually manage these issues? Is it HR or occupational health?
Depends on the organizations. Ammar, some organizations don't have a dedicated HR. Some organizations don't have a dedicated safety, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so this.
Yes, I'm talking like if we have like a company, like a hospital, like a mall, who's usually manage all these issues?
Usually, the comfort of employees is managed by HR. The safety and well-being of employees is managed by the safety. And let me tell you, in my organization, it's a combination of the both. HR and safety meet and talk and decide, like, for example, regarding this COVID-19 thing, regarding the crisis, it was always coordinated by management, HR, and safety.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So occupant productivity and creativity, among the forces changing today's organizations, 3 directly affect the way facility managers use space. So now we are having new trends in the organizations, new trends in terms of the workforce and the workplace. Now we're talking about millennials. New people are coming into the workplace. Even the way they think, the way they, this is what we call the changing demographics. The new generation is different from the older generation. The older generation, just to give you an example, we will cover that as we move along. The older generation was more monetary oriented, and they wanted separate spaces. They believed a lot in hierarchy. The new generation and the millennials, they don't believe in hierarchy. They don't see that. They believe in less formal attire. They believe in that they need to be adding value rather than only getting money and moving on. So this way also changes the way in which you design offices. If you go and to find, that's why when you go to modern offices, you will find that there is always a place for people to lounge. There's like more lounge, more common workplaces. Look at Qatar Foundation, for example. It's designed in that manner. Look at the bigger offices in some of the West Bay towers. They take care of that. Also, another thing, the trend towards smaller facilities. Now this COVID-19 is going to push it more and more. It has been established. IFMA was talking about this for years. The physical work is what you do, not where you do it. So that's why the requirement for facilities is becoming less. And it has gone through cycles. We started with, initially it was every employee has their own office. Then you started talking about total open space. It went to an extreme where you have some organizations which even the manager doesn't have a space, private space. And it's a dynamic thing that changes with the time. And the increasing size of knowledge-based economy, now we are dealing with a knowledge-based economy. It means that we are less, the way we are not producing things. We are morely processing ideas. We are like a design firm. We are a consultancy firm. So this knowledge-based economy has a different requirement from, let's say, a bank, a place where there's a physical transactions and things like that, or a factory. To create a healthful and productive workplace is how we have to take care of the environment. We cover that in the sustainability. A common topic at facility management professional gatherings is how organizations can decrease their square footage while simultaneously growing the number of employees and increasing output. So when you're looking at this aspect, you're looking at efficiency. You're looking how to increase output and reduce the space. Approaches used in reduction of footprints. So a strategy is that allocating space by actual work needs rather than by status. In the sense, it's not related to, like, for example, if I have a drafting team and they need to produce large drawings and so on, I need to take that into consideration. If I have someone who needs to use a bigger space, I have to consider that rather than their status, if they are a manager or not. If I have someone like a salesman, a typical example, a salesman who always wants to see clients and interacts with clients visiting, maybe I provide him with a separate office, even though he is not a manager. So it's about the actual work needs rather than the status. Consolidation of amenities such as multiple cafeterias and facility campuses. So this is another strategy to reduce the space. Open floor plans. So this was like a very big trend, open floor plans that waste less space on walls and halls using movable panels. Smaller scaled furniture and equipment. We've seen how furniture is shrinking and shrinking. Now you have offices even which are like 90 centimeters wide or even less. Eliminating data equipment space by using cloud computing. So you are eliminating the need of a separate server room, which was like a previous requirement. This is another strategy. Eliminating vast paper file areas in favor of electronic archiving. There was in older offices like an archive room usually, and now it's being more or less eliminated towards electronic archiving. Alternative work methods such as telecommuting or part-time space sharing. This is what we are utilizing now. So telecommuting means working from home, or part-time space sharing where you have hot desks, which we mentioned earlier. The knowledge economy, as society needs change, new technologies emerge. So now we are actually, and this COVID-19 has shown us, and maybe 80–90% of our work, I'm not talking construction people, but I'm talking about management and desk office people and the rest of the businesses are becoming, construction is one of the oldest technology things. And even in Qatar, now we're moving more towards a service-based economy. Service-based economy is a knowledge economy. We're having internet companies, we're having services companies, and so on. So these kind of things is that work is becoming more about acquiring, using, and sharing knowledge, and less about performing the same physical task. The knowledge workspace needs 4 different types of space. Social space, this is what I said, is that in such kind of environment, people are meeting more to discuss ideas. Social space supports building relationships and trust between workers and cohesiveness in teams. So organizations are realizing that it's better to have an open space. People can talk to each other rather than having people in booths and separate things which they don't converse. Learning space. So some companies have like a dedicated learning area or a training room. This space accommodates individual and group learning. Of course, we should be supplied with certain technology, let's say projectors and so on. Focus space, this is the opposite of open space. It promotes concentration, example, quiet rooms. We will see how, for example, Google has like this kind of booths where you can go, and it's even being promoted now. I've even had students who work into that. They are trying to sell the idea into Qatar where you have like a quiet room. Let's say I need to focus on something, I go into that room. I may be sitting, I have like 100 employees sitting in an open space, but in certain times, some people need to focus on certain something. They go and do into a quiet room, or sometimes we have meeting rooms, or which we call them project rooms or war rooms. War rooms, it will be like a dedicated room just for a specific project where people meet that. It's a dedicated for that. It's a focused space. Collaborative workplace accommodates small team discussions. So these are like meeting rooms in which meeting member can move from individual workstations to work areas. We talked about the demographic changes. Now we're hearing these terms. Many of you actually are millennials. So millennials have a different view into life, and this is a behavioral change. So millennials have a need for collaboration and teamwork, less formal, visual adaptation, workplace flexibility. We've seen how it's becoming. If you look like 20, 30 years ago, uh, in terms of hierarchy, the manager was someone who is scary. There was a strict hierarchical structure. There was not much interaction and relationships. Now we see it's becoming more democratic. People down the line are listened to. Even the engagement is being changed. Even we will see that there are some organizations which adopt a 360-degree evaluation. It means that not only I as a manager evaluate my team, it means that the team also evaluates me, my customer also evaluates me, and my peers also evaluate me. This is part of the changing mentality at the workplace. Millennials are more tech savvy. They prefer to have things electronically rather than physically. I'm one of the people who still prefer, when I read books, to read a physical book. So whereas it will not apply maybe for someone who is new to the workforce. So in all the generations, we have individually focused work, classic fit out space, manual preference, structured processes, moderate tech support, and personal space and cubicles. So facilities, for example, now are more social than the previous generations. They have a preference for social networking and collaboration. Facility management strategies. Facility FM can support more productive use of workspace by ensuring that occupants have the right quantity of their needs and the right quality. So we're talking about not only the right quantity, and for example, I need a certain kind of space, but as I said, maybe my job, let's say I'm a graphic designer, I need a certain environment to be able, because I'm selling creativity. I need a certain quality of space. I need no interruption. My job involves lots of contemplating, and I'm creating art. So we're talking about the right quantity of space and the right quality. So quantity and quality. So this means that facility managers must design for workplace effectiveness, facilitate collaboration, satisfy occupants' aesthetic needs. What does aesthetic means? Aesthetic means we're talking about the beautification. We're talking about the image of the things. We're talking about the colors, the paintings, and things like that. If you're sitting in an office which is well decorated, you will have a different feel to it than sitting in a bland black and white office with normal furniture, and designed for workplace efficiency. So we're talking about, you see the same concepts being repeated over and over again. We're talking about effectiveness, efficiency. We talked about those two things, and we talked also about the representation. So the representation falls in the aesthetic needs. Yeah, this is, for example, Google offices. Some of them, you can see they have it's like sort of a children playground. It's to that level, but it's effective. They're not doing it, as I said, to show fads. They're doing it because they want to secure that their people are comfortable, and you can be sitting like this and still, maybe this is an extreme position, but you can be sitting like this and still being productive and effective. You really don't need a physical office. You can do that from a laptop. Some of you have worked during the COVID-19 at home and were as productive as you are in an office. So design for workplace effectiveness. Too often workplace design is too standardized. So this is the typical thing. So for example, everyone other than management is given the same size cubicle without regard to how they use space. Some occupants may need enough space to have frequent one-on-one meetings with team members, while others might interact with others virtually by phone or via email. So for example, if I'm designing a workplace for my HR executive, I will not tend to put an HR, for example, in an open workspace. I will not want to put finance in an open workplace, because these kind of people, there's some kind of privacy required innate to their job. If you want to discuss something with your HR, you cannot be sitting in an open place and discussing it. There is some privacy of the discussions. We're talking about something very private regarding your benefits, salary, and so on, your promotion, your performance. Similarly, regarding finances, they need to have sometimes even their own safe, locked in a safe place. Sometimes they have even their own lock for their own offices, and so on. So these kind of things have to be taken into consideration. What quantity of space they need and what quality of space they need. A functional workplace needs different types of workspaces, individual and group reflective spaces, team or networking spaces. So even places like a cafeteria, it is, although it's not functional, a cafeteria is not only a place for you to eat food, it's a place for you to interact with the team members. If you're having a lounge area in the facility, you are really increasing the bond of the employees. As I said, we're not machines. We are not working 99% of the time. There are statistics which say maybe we are effective 1 to 4 hours per day. So out of the 8 hours, most of the time we are socializing, we are talking, we are chatting of irrelevant things. And that's not a bad thing. We are human beings at the end of the day. We are not only working. Especially since if we are not producing things by our own hand, let's say if we are a craftsman in a factory or so on, that's a different thing. But if we are engineers, if we are managers, if we are whatever, there is a lot of conversation going on in the workplace, and an effective workplace is that one that promotes that. So you see, for example, Google's Dublin office, you see the aesthetics, they are appealing, they are beautiful, lots of open lighting space, lots of collaborative space, so people are sitting there and working, and they can be working not necessarily behind an office. We care about efficiency. It's not about how many hours you spend behind the desk. And although some organizations still focus on that, but most organizations are beyond that now. They focus on what you produce rather than how many hours you spend in the office. You can be sitting all the day in the office behind your desk from 8 to 5 and doing nothing. And you can be roaming around, taking your laptop, sitting at a cafeteria or at a bench and being much more productive than sitting behind your desk. Work is what you do and not where you do it. So facility managers can support collaboration and creativity. So we're talking about creativity by creating and supporting flexible, well-equipped team spaces, ensuring that frequently collaborating groups can access each other easily. Again, a different office for Google. You see the open space. I selected Google, and it's not only Google that's doing that. You even find many organizations here. If you go to prominent offices in the West Bay, you will find this. They are focusing on collaborative space. There are, like, for example, some of them will have like a mini bar or a lounging area, like a coffee machine. People can talk, chat, and things like that, can sit down on tables and get their laptop to do that. So facility aesthetics can be an integral part of a corporate design, but can also include cleanliness, well-maintained interiors. So your job is to maintain interiors, and let's say if there is a problem, a scratch, something is torn down, you as a facility manager is required to do that. Views, well, these again, we're talking about the nice to have perks. Look at the view of this place. Of course, such a place will induce creativity more than a place which is closed to the outside and blocked. That's why, artists or whatever need their kind of they go somewhere to get ideas and things like that. Lighting is important. So again, natural light is very important for our health. In the last only few thousand years, we as human beings have moved inside buildings. Before that, we were living in the wild. We were in the atmosphere outside. Now 90% of our time is spent indoors. As per our design, are designed to be subjected to natural light. That's why even in Qatar, because due to the weather, most people are inside. There's a very known pandemic for everyone that we have a lack of vitamin D. We have a vitamin D deficiency, and that's not good for our health. Art. So why do you put art? It has no functional reason. Why do you put certain art on your house or in your office? You're just trying to express yourself. You're trying to express the organization. You can see here, Google, how they're expressing themselves even by the design of the furniture, modern furniture design. I mentioned previously, for example, if you go to Al Fardan offices here, you see that because the brand promotes luxury, you'll find even the offices promote this kind of image. You go to the offices, they are very lavishly decorated and designed because they're trying to reflect a certain image. Design for workplace efficiency can be seen as something that primarily benefits an organization from stakeholder. Okay, so let us take a 10-minute break and come back. I will stop now. So it's 8:11 now, or 8:12. Let us be back at 8:20, please. Okay. You can hear me, guys? Okay. Yeah, so back to the course, guys. We are talking about now the design for workplace efficiency. We have talked about that. As we said, we're talking about effectiveness. So for an effective workplace, we need to have the right amount of space, the right quality of space. Efficiency, we're trying to look at it from an economic perspective. So workplace efficiency can be as something that primarily benefits an organizational financial stakeholders. So if you look at it from purely financial, you're trying to occupy as much number of people in the most economic space available, decreasing the facility footprint. Less footprint, less space needed means that less rent paid and so on. Less space needed means less water and electricity bills, less cleaning and so on. But again, that's for efficiency has to be taken hand in hand with effectiveness, not be seen on it alone. Facility manager can employ other strategies as well. You're hearing me, guys, right? Just want to check. Anyone?
Yes, clear.
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah, okay. Just want to confirm that everyone is on board.
Yeah, we are here.
Okay, good. So a facility manager can employ other tactics to minimize the impact of a move. Here we talk about move. Facility managers manage the move of facilities from one place to the other. It can be a simple process. Let's say a company of 50 people shifting from one office place to the other. And it can be a more complex one. So can you imagine, for example, a bank's headquarters shifting from one place to the other? It's a much more complex process. You need to shift systems, you need to shift facilities, you need to shift equipment and things like that. So some tactics to ensure better ways to adapt to movement is to ensure that all storage furniture is on wheels that can be quickly moved to its new location. Ensuring that occupants can secure expensive or sensitive equipment in a locked space. This is what I talked about. Some people have different requirements. Someone who is in charge of the data servers of the company should have his private space. Some companies go very elaborate on that, like big banks and whatever. They even do it it's a project. Shifting from one place to the other is dealt with as a project. You are allocated your own space. You're allocated with your own office and with your own toolbox for you to shift your things. Some companies have frequent moves. Let's say companies which go from one country to the other, and they might need certain type of equipment. Providing a plug-and-play facility in which occupants can simply plug their data and communication equipment into existing connections without having for rewiring and cabling. One number for systems that follow occupants to their new locations. Swing spaces to accommodate displaced occupants during extended relocation. So this is in the case where you have some companies which are shifting frequently. These are strategies to be utilized. I've mentioned this over and over again. Support alternate workspaces. Work is what you do, not where you go. You can be sitting at home, you can be sitting on the roof. As long as you are effective, and more careers are being able to be mobile than ever now, because we are in a knowledge economy, as I said. You can be a consultant providing financial services, and there is absolutely no need for you even to go to the office. You can be a contracts administrator, and you can do perfectly your job sitting at home because you have access to the internet. You can be a computer programmer. You don't need to access workplace. You can be a customer support operator, and you can be taking the calls from your phone, laptop, and whatever. So these kind of jobs are rising more and more, and actually they are becoming, or they are a majority now already in the world. Other than the direct interaction, for example, selling people at the shops or construction works, these can involve physical interaction, but more works are becoming more related to the knowledge economy. So for us to create alternative work strategies, you have to take that into the design. Common activity areas such as huddle rooms, or what I called a war room earlier, or team space. So people maybe, I have people always in rotation working at home. I don't need to rent a workplace for my 50 employees. I need maybe to rent a workplace just for 30, and the rest can have hot desks or can have shared offices, shared spaces where 2 or more occupants share one workstation, depending on who is there and who's not there. Satellite offices that are owned or leased by the organization and provide workspace and support services. So satellite offices, if you know Regus, for example, office space, they are REGUS, they are an international company, and this is a perfect example for that. These are what they call serviced offices. You can go and rent from them a workstation, and that workstation, you can even have a contract with them. They have offices all over the globe. Let's say someone who frequently travels, I don't need to rent for my team which travels from Singapore to China to Japan. I don't need to go and rent them permanent offices everywhere. I can go and make a deal with a company such as Regus, and they will provide me, for example, 3 workstations, and you can go into these satellite offices and utilize them wherever you want. There are certain companies which provide these kind of services. More and more companies, even in Qatar, are utilizing these kind of spaces. Why? Because they are flexible and they are more cost effective. And usually you will have an access to, even if it's one desk, you will have an access to a meeting room, which you can hire based on maybe sometimes you pay extra charges and so on. Off-site distributed space refers to remote working arrangements. Safety, here were the question I received, who handles this, HR or safety? Ultimately, the responsibility of employees, it's a shared thing. So the allocation of this changes from one organization to the other. A few years back, even till now, maybe you find many organizations not having a dedicated HR. But it has become a common, and some companies don't even have a dedicated safety officer or a safety at the office, but some have. So safety and security must become permanent responsibility in a facility manager's work life. So IFMA says that the safety, you don't have also to rely on other parties. Whatever you do, whenever the facility manager considers a new process, project or piece of equipment, possible impact on safety and security should be added to the list of factors to be evaluated alongside the budget and schedule. When we were talking about emergency preparedness, we said human life is a #1 priority. Human safety at the workplace is a #1 priority. First, due to ethical reasons. We cannot be jeopardizing the life of our visitors. Let's say, for example, if I'm having a hotel, the residents are at least expecting a place where it's safe, that they will not get electrocuted, for example, because of an open wiring, or have the elevator fall or crash because I'm not properly maintaining it. So safety and security are an integral part of whatever we do, and they are a #1 priority. You cannot compromise human life of safety. So as I said, from an ethical perspective and from a liability perspective, can you imagine how damaging would it be to have someone die in a hotel because of, let's say, a faulty elevator, or because of an improper fire connection, and this will be a PR disaster and can tarnish the reputation of the whole hotel chain. Let's say if it happens in a Hilton, people will look down on that brand, and it can be heavily damaging. So there's the ethical perspective, and there is the business perspective impact. Strategies to include facility safety, ensure management support, identify risks. So safety, we have been dealing with risks, whether there are risks for the organization or whatever, and we say that risk mitigation starts with the identification of risks. Identify the risks. What are the risk factors? If I am the facility manager of a building inside Ras Laffan, the safety hazards there are totally different if I'm the facility manager of a hotel, which is by the beach side. And let's say maybe a major factor of safety would be the people drowning or whatever. So the risks change, and we have to identify the risks and then plan a safety strategy and then implement the strategy. How do we identify the risks? We go through them, and usually there are sometimes safety committees, even the responsibility can be shared. And we look at the safety of our employees, and that's why like emergency preparedness and things come into place. I've worked in some in oil and gas companies, for example. The drills for fire, even at the offices, are mandated. There's a schedule in which these are done, and some are pre-planned and some are like out of the sudden. They come, they're announced and unplanned, and everyone has to comply. Safety committees. So safety committees can support. So one tool to utilize is having a safety committee. A safety committee can be made from different people of the organization. It can be made from HR, management, and things like that. What they do is that assess the workplace risks and conduct workplace inspections. So inspection of the workplace itself. Is it, for example, a factory? A factory will have very different safety hazards as compared to an office space. Implement training and review its effectiveness. So kind of training, evacuation training, fire drill. Let's say if I'm in a factory which is having a chemical spillage, the way to handle that is different. Investigate safety-related complaints, monitor facility conditions for safety, and propose changes. Okay, so safety committees are a tool which can be made from different people, from production or whatever, or from HR, from safety, and so on. Training and promoting behavioral changes. So all of these safety and quality and the wellness of people usually are a culture. So it depends on the organization. It's an organizational culture. Safety training programs, whether developed in-house or purchased from external sources, must be assessed for effectiveness and appropriateness for intended audience. So implementing safety, raising awareness about safety. As I said, an office, for example, maybe the risk factors are not high, but let's say if you're having a facility in Ras Laffan, the risks are very high. If you're having a theme park, for example, the risks are again very high at the workplace, and so on. Training and promoting a work-safe culture is very important. Safety incidents. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's called the Swiss cheese model. So this is a model which explains how accidents happen. There's a different way for you to represent it. Accidents happen due to several reasons. Usually accidents happens in a millisecond, whether they're a car accident or a slippage accident. And usually they don't happen because of one reason only. A typical example I like to give is that accidents, I'm sure you've seen documentaries on accidents of flights. And usually they will come and say that it's a combination of things, the investigation. Usually, for example, it will be you are having bad weather. So bad weather increases the risk. you are having, so I like to picture it, this is one example, the Swiss cheese, I'll come to that, but I like to picture it as concentric circles. This is another model. So I having like accidents happen. So this is the root cause of the accident. I'm having a loophole in the process, which is bad weather. Bad weather will create a room for an accident. But let's say I have an alert pilot, then that is blocked. But on the other hand, if I have scenario B, I have bad weather. This is one thing. I have poor maintained equipment. Another thing. I have a sleepy pilot, overworked pilot. Another thing. And boom, I have an accident because it crossed this. So similarly for the Swiss cheese, it's the same concept, is that accidents happen because of each process by its nature, or each control measure has loopholes. We design, the more we have layers, the more safe it is. But even the polyet issue is usually here. Yes, so again, actually there's another reason, Krishna, for usually they do that. Avionics is a very well designed thing, but they always try to blame the human factor. It's much cheaper. It's much cheaper for the aviation companies, and much cheaper for the companies which manufacture the aircraft. So that's why they usually try to blame the pilot as the first thing. A typical example was the Air France flight, which was lost over where the Atlantic, I think, recently. And then they started blaming the pilot, this, that, and then they found out that the equipment by Airbus was having this. So it's usually a combination of things. Accident happen even at the workplace. Let's say you are having an open shaft. No one locked the panel. This is one ring. Okay, no one locked the panel, but then you had, like, let's say, a safety officer on site. He spotted this. If the safety officer inside spotted this, then this risk is closed. Whereas if, let's say, that there was no safety officer on there, there was no proper supervisor at Grace and things, organizer, and so on. So all of this. So usually these measures are there. And this incident investigations. So usually when an incident happens, if you work, especially those who work on construction sites, whenever you have an incident, you've witnessed this. Usually there'll be like interviews with the victim and the witnesses, document reports and evidence collected. It's very important as a culture to allow people and not to choke them when they report a near-miss incident, which is unfortunately not very much followed here. But let's say in the oil and gas sector, it's encouraged to report near-miss, because it's better to be safe than to be sorry. It's better to find the gaps in the process, because in the end, zero accidents is not possible. In the end, the best countries in the world, the best equipment in the world, the redundancy in the design of an aircraft is so much well. They go and test it and retest it and test it again. And even the design of the system, for example, an aircraft will have 3 hydraulic systems. Some aircrafts have 4 engines, and they can run with even 1 engine alone. Even it can run, the plane can run without the 4 engines. It can glide for a certain range without the engines, and still accidents happen. Why? Because there is no perfection, and there is Murphy's law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So that's why safety is, they say the safety regulations are written with blood. Because it's an ever continuous process, and of course now it's much, the safety of at the workplace is much better than it was 100 years ago. To ensure if you know the story of the NFPA, NFPA was founded after it's the National Fire Protection Association. It was made by manufacturers in the state due to a fire in New York, I think, and because there were people in factories were frequently dying, and then there was a major fire, and then the people from the different factories came, joined, and started creating rules and regulations how to make workplaces more safe from a fire perspective, and it has been for more than 100 years, I think now, and that's why you have even now evolved into special regulations, NFPA 58, NFPA whatever, one for electricity, one for gas systems, and so on. Safety of third parties. As a facility manager, you're not only in charge of your own team and how they handle this, you are ensuring you are in charge of the occupants, the facility property, and contractors. And this is something that practicing facility managers will witness on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes you have a very high safety standard at your organization, and then you have a tenant, let's say, will come and bring in one contractor, let's say typically in shopping malls. They will bring in one contractor to do the fit out, and they will be people who, sorry to say, that they brought them from the street, who will come in flip-flops and will come without safety helmets, without gloves, without anything. And they are not only endangering themselves, they're endangering you as a facility manager and the reputation of your facility. Let's say you're a hotel and you are the Hilton, and then you hire a contractor who's not following properly the safety things. Again, if there's an accident at your place, you are legally liable, you are morally liable, and that can destroy your reputation as a business. So a facility manager has the role of ensuring that safety records and employee safety training are critical in selecting contractors and that records are checked. That's why big contracts, they ask for your safety record. What systems you implement, show me your safety record, show me how many near misses you had in the last few years, show me any, there's a questionnaire usually which will tell you what kind of incidents you have, what's your safety record, and what kind of processes you follow, and sometimes it's even audited, including review and compliance with facility policies and procedures and the contractor's scope of work. So an important thing is to compliance with the safety requirements, so that they included some mandate, like I prefer to mandate to have a safety officer always available, whether it's from the facility side, from our side as a facility management company, or from the contractor side. No work should be conducted without a facility manager, and that's done to protect the people and to protect the facility which we are handling. Providing contractors with safe work method statements and perhaps test their understanding. Requiring work permits for hazardous work. You hear lots of accidents here. You hear a few months ago, there was an unfortunate accident. People who are working in a confined space, cleaning the sanitary well or things like that, and they got killed due to the lack of oxygen. Stock implementation of permit to work, for sure, Yusuf. All of these are combined. Safety is not a luxury. Safety is something that really can cause a company lots of damages, whether they are moral or whether they are financial as well. And it needs to be taken into consideration. A safety committee can be reviewing data such as the number of accident reports filed and worker compensation claims submitted, inspection reports, both internal and external. Some people, they hire a third party to come and inspect the safety of a certain facility. Accident reports, including insurer reports, near miss reports, are very important. And that's why you see proper organizations who know how to work know that there should be a certain number of near misses. If there are 0 near misses, it means is that you are not really keeping your records straight. Similarly for quality complaints, like you have many organizations, no, we don't have any complaint. No, we are imperfect in terms of process. We are human beings. It means that you're not recording it properly. Perfection is something that we aim for, but we never reach. So this is called continuous improvement, whether in measuring the quality, improving the safety, and so on. Unfortunately, in Qatar, things have improved, but in the last few years, I've seen several incidents in organizations, whether they are operating facilities or under construction facilities, where risk factors are higher, people have lost their lives. Post-incident reports, after an incident happens, we go and investigate, we see what's the problem, we analyze what's the reason, and then we put our recommendations for corrective actions, preventive measures in the future. Sometimes we need to change and redesign the whole process. Sometimes we need to change the people. Sometimes we need to train the people. So it all goes to the root cause analysis of the system, why the accident happened, because people are not complying or people are not trained, and so on. Strategies to create facility security. So security is again a part of facility management. I hope now with the, I think the 5th session, those of you who are new to the field are able to realize that facility management is not only about managing the mechanical, electrical part of a facility. We're talking about integrated services. We're talking about soft and hard services. We're talking about security. We're talking about custodial and cleaning services. We're talking about valet services. We're talking even about catering. It all falls under the scope of facility management. Security is a key aspect of facility management. Here in Qatar, we are having a more or less a safe and secure environment. And this is a privilege. That's why maybe it's not as important, but in other countries, it can become much, much more critical to have facility security, and the role of facility security becomes even more important. Security threats can be internal or external. So an example of an internal security threat is that an employee, for example, can come and steal data or steal equipment. So the breach can be internal, some employee can do it. They can be minor or severe. So a security threat can be to the level of robbing a bank or going and shooting someone inside a facility, bringing a gun in and killing someone. This is a very high consequence thing. And we've seen it happen in the States. We've seen it happen in schools in the States. Someone will go with a machine gun and kill 20, 30 people. And this is a huge security threat. Or they can be very minor. For example, someone using someone else's access card to go and access the building because they've lost this is a minor thing. They can be physical or non-physical. So physical threats can be, as I said, killing someone, stealing money. Non-physical security threats can be the compromising of the IT system. We've seen that how cybersecurity now has become a very global and important business, cybersecurity, because again, we're moving into a digital age, we're moving into a technology-based knowledge information economy, and our value is in the knowledge that we have. So if we lose that, we're losing more than the facility itself. For example, the value of Google is not in the Google offices. It's in the knowledge in which Google has produced, and the servers, and the operations, and the modus operandi, and they are all non-physical assets. Non-physical. Google is not a physical asset generating company. So depending on the organizations, facility managers may be responsible for the facility security or may work closely with security officers to develop and implement security strategies. Strategies to increase facility security, again, same as with fire, same as with emergency preparedness, we start with risks. And the same way we deal with safety and risks, we deal with security risks. We either mitigate or avoid or accept, let's say. So organizational risks to occupants and assets will vary greatly depending on the organization's business processes, physical facilities, and culture. What does that mean? It means that if I'm managing the facilities of an embassy, it's quite different from if I'm managing the security of I don't know, of a hotel. Totally different. The risks there are much higher in an embassy. For a bank, it's much higher. For a supermarket, it's different. So the security threats are different and different motivations. One of them, like I'll have in a supermarket, maybe petty theft. someone smuggling a bar of chocolate or whatever. In a bank, it can be large amounts of cash. And an embassy, it can be to prevent terrorism acts. So an organization engaged in a politically or socially controversial activity may be vulnerable to physical and cyber attacks on its property and occupants. High levels of traffic, including visitor traffic, may make some parts of a facility more vulnerable to theft. So an example like managing a Carrefour is quite different. You have a high volume of traffic, a lot of people in and out, and you have a high loss rate. So it takes a different strategy. That's why you find many security in Carrefour, and it's managed differently. Organizations that are known to handle large amounts of high-value data can be subject to hacking and theft of organizational employee or client data. An example, banks. Another example, insurance companies. They're handling high valuable data and they are subject to cyber attacks. Plan and implement security strategies. For example, several different strategies. They include intensive entrance and exit visitor screening may be appropriate for a high-tech operation, but this level of screening may not be acceptable or practical at a university. I had a friend who used to work for the Indian Monetary Association. I don't know what they call it, but it's the place where they print the banknotes. And he tells me the security there is severe. All employees on in and out, they are almost stripped. Very high security because the items at risk are at big. Okay. Communication and education play a critical role in maintaining facility security. So the education of the people, even on cyber security, long back, I used to know, I don't know how true that is, that big companies such as IBM, they hire ethical hackers, people who will come to your office desk, will sit on your office desk, and this was like an old thing. If they will look at your things, they will have basic data about you, your name, your date of birth, or whatever, and their specialty is to come and hack your password. If they hack your password, you lose your job, because they wanted to promote that people take care of the security of their systems and deal it very seriously, because a system is as weak as its weakest link. So security, again, is a science on its own. People can enter from a small breach, and an example, the Iranian nuclear program was delayed for several years due to a security breach from a small USB. So communication and education play a critical role in maintaining facility security. Occupants should be made aware of the potential consequences of lapses in security, such as taking unencrypted sensitive information out of the facility. Bank employees, bank tellers are definitely trained in security, what to do in case someone comes with a gun, how to handle it, and so on. So there's a security culture training and so on. Security violations of policy must be consistently punished according to policy. So this is something serious, and it can go from the range of having financial implications up to the range of compromising the safety of the occupants of the building. So example, that's why when you go to any embassy, particularly for prominent countries such as the US, you go through several screening in order to be able to reach. They take your mobile phone, they search you, they even take a swab. If you go to the embassy here, they take a swab and make sure that there is no explosive traces on your body. Evaluate facility security strategy. On a periodic basis, facility manager could monitor the strategy effectiveness according reports of organizational committees. So like safety, there can be security committees. Changes in rates of loss of equipment and supplies. So for example, Carrefour have maintained a rate of loss. They accept that That's why sometimes you find people, it can be a petty theft sometimes, like someone ate, you see it in Carrefour or any other store, like someone ate a chocolate and put it on the shelf and they didn't check it out. So this is a rate of loss. They should try to minimize it and they monitor it. And if it goes beyond a certain level, it means that the security policy needs to be changed. Vandalism reports by facility management staff. Again, vandalism is a thing which needs to be addressed. Communication and training events. Employee development. Employee development. We are at slide 35 out of 54. Okay. Employee development. So a key part of this human factor thing is the employee development. Facility managers have the responsibility and opportunity to ensure that the FM organization has the human resources needed to achieve the strategic goals of the organizations. That's why they call it, humans are, in my experience as a manager, in my knowledge as a manager, and even the managerial sciences, your biggest assets are your people. Definitely. You can have the most sophisticated equipment in the world and don't have the right team, you will reach nowhere. And on the other extreme, you can have very humble equipment and resources, and yet you have a good team, and then you will succeed. So it's very important. That's why they call it human resources. They're considered as a resource, HR, human resources, or sometimes they call it human capital. It is capital. An organization is as strong as its employees. Facility managers must be aware of the implications of strategies on staffing. Employee development will be shaped by the organization values, which will inform hiring profile and performance standards used for appraisal purposes. The employee development starts from the day you hire them, from the day you select them, from what caliber of people and what kind of people you select. It's not only the technical qualifications. That's why interview questions usually have questions not related only to the technical side of things. People want to know how much does this person fit into our organizational culture. They might be very much technically qualified, but our organizational structure, culture is different. One of the tools that's used, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this, is identifying job requirements. So you as a hiring manager, as a facility manager, you need to know what kind of people that you want. Again, I go back to my introduction. We are individuals. We are not all equal. That's why you find there is a human resources who do the hiring, because it's not like picking something from the catalog. I need someone with 5 years of experience in this, 2 years of experience in that, and this. Sometimes you find people who match the profile, who don't necessarily match the culture and are not selected. And in other instances, you find people, let's say I'm asking for a 10-year experience person, and then I find someone with a 2-year experience and I will take them. Why? Because they fit the job profile that I'm looking for more. So one of the tools to use to hire and have the people on board is to having a job profile. A job profile is an accurate and valid understanding of what's required from an employee to perform a given job. It's called the job profile or the job description. And usually it starts from the recruitment process. They tell you what do we need in that functional description, the personality requirements. Like, for example, when I'm looking for a sales guy, I'm looking for someone who's outward going, who has good relationships, who knows how to handle people well. If I'm looking for I have a high demanding job, I need someone who's able to handle stress well and things like that. So this change, it provides an opportunity for the organization to align job applicants and employees' abilities Accurate descriptions of job requirements help organizations recruit applicants with the right type of qualifications. So usually, let's say you as a facility manager, you need a certain type of technician. You should be helping HR, ideally, in telling them what you need. For example, I need an HVAC technician experienced on the train chillers. Just a simple example. And can even be more elaborate than that. And I need, for example, a security manager who is experienced in managing hospitals. Sometimes specifics are required. Why we need that? Because we are dealing with a company which is very particular on that, or so on. So valid descriptions that accurately reflect job requirements can help protect employers against claims of discrimination in hiring and promotion. This is something that we don't find in the local culture here, but in places where someone said something, annual refreshment training to technicians in their own domain. Yeah, this is something else. This is regarding employee development. We will come to that. So training, of course, is very much important. And Krishna Kumar, if you're working in an ISO certified company or a company which is having a proper management, usually they provide a training matrix and training requirements for every employee. So that's why when you remember we started with the balanced scorecard, is that we need to focus on improving our team as well, not only the financial things. If you look at financial things, some people see training as an expense. Training is not an expense. If you don't have the proper workforce trained, you will be losing in terms of competition and quality of services provided. I was talking about that, why having a job requirement is important, because again, the discrimination. Usually here you see things which are really discriminatory and would not be, they will take you to a court directly in the States. Let's say when they write someone like Arabic guy required, or a Lebanese guy required, or a Filipino required. So you're starting by discriminating from this. If you apply a job in the States, even they will reject your resume if you have your photo on it, because ideally they're supposed to be selecting someone not based on your race, not based on your gender even. Even some companies, multinational companies, go to the extreme that where the recruiter or the HR, once you apply on their system, HR will not even know your name. You will be assigned, your name will be hidden, you will be assigned a number, and anything that reveals your age, your nationality, your background is eliminated. Job description is a brief summary of the most appropriate features and requirements of a specific job. So it's similar to the job profile. This is usually at hiring, and usually after you are hired, you are provided with a detailed job description. They tell you who do you report to, what you're supposed to do, what are your key performance indicators. We're going to be evaluating you on an annual basis based on 1, 2, 3, 4 criteria. So a job description usually is a generic one, not written to describe a specific employee, but rather a group of employees performing similar work. So I will have a job description for an HVAC technician, a job description for a security person, a job description for a facility manager, a job description for an accountant, and so on. Managing performance. Managing employees' performance is a continuous cycle of setting expectations of both the facility organization and the employee targets or goals. So managing performance starts with identifying what are the targets that we need from you, what are the goals that we need from you. You are supposed to do what? You are supposed to, as a technician, what is your role? As a head of security, what's your role? And you're going to be measured against what? Observing and evaluating whether the performance meets expectations. So we start by identifying what's required from you. To make it simple, for a sales guy, for example, you are expected to create this much new accounts. You are expected to bring a monthly revenue of this much. You are expected to retain this number of customers. Very clear, 1, 2, 3 points. So we establish the goals. Or, for example, as a facility manager, you are expected to do 90-something% of the PPMs on time. You are expected to maintain a customer satisfaction of 80%. So we try to make them as SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. We will be discussing that. So usually we're trying to quantify the goals for an employee. We said SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. So in a year, you're supposed to do 1, 2, 3 things. So we establish the baseline, and then we observe and evaluate whether the performance meets expectations. Okay. Then our job as a manager is to identify and remove obstacles to satisfactory performance, and to providing recognition, acknowledgement, rewards, or corrections as needed. So our job is to monitor someone while they are performing, identifying and removing obstacles, a new management concept in which everyone is moving to now is what we call as a servant leadership. What's a servant leadership means? A leader is someone who serves the employee, in the sense that your job as a manager is to clear the path for the employee for them to perform. You provide them with the necessary tool. They're not only the physical tools, the necessary tool, the necessary work environment, the necessary empowerment for them to do what they are supposed to do. All discussions and communications about performance should be documented. So HR in principle requires that everything, whether a good or bad performance, you document it, so that to avoid, why we do that, we do it to avoid legal repercussions later on, because they can go and say you are firing me because you don't like me. Whereas if you're maintaining a proper record, let's say, then firing them, you are backed up and you can do that. Even HR will be informed for a good, someone like 2-3 year performance good review. I have it in their records. And then let's say when there's a vacant position, I go and say, I want to recommend this person. And this is his good record shown before. Whatever thing that we have done and giving him as a task, they have done it. So in setting the expectations, I measured SMART goals. Any goal that you set should be SMART. So it should be specific. What do you want to do? So specifically, I want you to maintain a customer satisfaction of 80% or more. So specific. So we're talking about the customer expectation. Measurable. I'm trying, even customer satisfaction is something that usually subjective, and I'm trying to make it as objective as possible by setting a clear, so customer satisfaction of 80% as per this format. Achievable, for a goal to be right or smart, it should be an achievable goal. For example, I cannot go, for example, and I'm having an annual sales last year was 2 million riyal for the whole company, and I have one salesman, and I tell him, okay, next year I need sales for 200 million riyal. This is not a realistic goal. If you set a goal which is not realistic and beyond the capacity of the employee, he will know, or they will know, that they will not achieve it, and that's why they will accept it and don't care. So a goal, for it to be smart, it has to be something a little bit stretch. So someone who has done 5 million last year, maybe I make it 7 million this year, okay, 6 million, something like that. And not like, for example, 20 or whatever. They will say, oh, 20, how the hell can I get a 20? So this is realistic and achievable, something realistic, and timely. Timely, I'm setting a time frame. I need you to do this sales in 1 year. I need you to do this PPMs in this year, and so on. So I'm setting a time frame for it. It's not open-ended. Setting expectations. Expectations should be explicit, not assumed. Very frequently, employees fail because they don't know what management needs from them. Management is not clear about what they need from them. Do not assume. A golden rule in talking to employees: do not assume. Do not assume that they understand what we want. You have to be very explicit what you want. You are weak in this, you need to improve in this. I need this to be done. This is my priority. And I make it very clear to my employees usually that this is my priority, because sometimes the priority for the employee will be something totally, although at work, and they can be hardworking and focusing on something else. Tell them, no, focus on this thing, don't focus on this. This is my ultimate priority. You're going to be measured based on this. For employees in a new position, the manager describes the standards that will be used at the end of the period to appraise the employee performance. Effective goals are created by a collaborative effort between the manager and the employee. So as I said, we are moving more towards a two-way communication channel with the employee. It's not one way. When I'm setting goals, typical organizations, what they do is that they do a co-joint, usually in our organization and many organizations that I work, that the goal is set by the employee with their management. So you are asked to submit your objectives, then you sit down with your manager and you discuss it. The manager provides feedback, this is acceptable, this I need to stretch and whatever. And that way, why it's done like that is that to ensure that you buy into your objectives. If I go and employ and force an objective on you, you will maybe not buy into it. Whereas if I do it collaboratively with you, at least I have your buy-in. The employee must feel a sense of control in choosing goals and an investment in the outcome of the developed effort. Train, here we come to your question, Krishna. Training, the purpose of training is to ensure that employees have the knowledge, skills, and confidence they need to perform to expectations. Training can be for new employees. Training for new employees should also include experiences that speed the process of integrating the employee into the established social fabric of the workplace. So this is the process which we call onboarding. So some organizations have it. For example, even any employee is taken around, introduced to the different parts of the company. He does a rotation, spends 1 week here, 1 week there, 1 week whatever. Why they do that? So that they integrate into the workforce very quickly. They start chatting with people, they develop relationships. So it makes the process of onboarding faster. They understand the company faster, they understand the process faster. The better your employees are, the better you are as a company, the better you are as a manager. Off-site training. Off-site training refers to training that's completed away from the job site. So what you're doing now, guys, is called an off-site training. This is not an on-site training. Whatever the source of the training may be, managers must be responsible for its effectiveness. On-the-job training is vocal training, where you're doing a job on the training, where you take, for example, a newly hired technician, you put him with a senior technician, and he does an on-the-job training with him. So this is called coaching, for example. It can take many forms. It can be applied at all levels. It can help from the level of a technician up to the level of a general manager or a sales manager or whatever. So a sales can take his sales team with him and do coaching on the job. From entry positions to senior management, it can be used to acquire knowledge, physical skills, or soft skills. So we have the hard skills. Hard skills are technical skills. Soft skills are skills, for example, conversation with people, emotional intelligence. These are what we call soft skills. They are not hard. They are not related to something technical. My hard skills are as an engineer. My soft skills are the way I deal with customers, the way I deal with my employees, and so on. The difference between the job training and off-the-job training. So the on-the-job training, you gain hands-on experience, you learn by doing. An advantage for it is that it's naturally part of the business cycle. I don't need to stop the job. I can have two people working on something and they are doing training. So person A is doing training to person B on the utilization of this CFM software while they are physically doing a job together. Off-the-job training, requires, it's usually more about theory rather than about the practice. And it requires people to have time out. And here you learn from experienced employees. Here you learn from subject experts, people who are experts in the field. Succession training. Succession planning is a human resource strategy that focuses on having trained people in the pipeline to fill positions critical to the organization if they become vacant. Again, proper HR practice is to secure that you always have people in the pipeline. It's what we call like employee grooming. You need to always secure succession. For example, I used to have with the middle management, if someone wants to climb up the ladder, I want to know that who is there to succeed you. I used to tell them that, okay, if you want to grow, then you need to nominate someone who is under you, who's able to take your position so that you can go to a higher position. So this is what's called succession training and succession planning. We are planning for the growth of the organization. Assess performance. So after we have identified the goals, after we've sat down, and then we go into is for the facility management is to assess the employee for performance against expectations. Performance assessment can occur at different times. So usually the performance assessment in the traditional way, it was done at the end of the year. Now there is something which we call the continuous feedback. And particularly, this is, as I said, management trends change, and this is a preference of the new workforce. Don't wait for me to the end of the year or the end of the period to tell me if I'm moving off the track. Tell me now, and it really makes more sense so that if there is something I can do quick corrective to it. Continuous feedback is very important. If someone does good, you tell them you're doing good. If someone is moving out of the intended expectations, you also tell them. It's very important, okay? The next stage is for the facility manager to assess for a new hire, performance may be assessed after training. So this is after what they say the probation period. We call them like, okay, you are on track, and you are not on track, you will continue with us. If poor performance is observed, managers should not wait until the next formal performance meeting to address the gap and should initiate a performance remediating. So if someone's performance is not meeting the requirements, you should take action. Different organizations have different tools for that. Some organizations have what we call is that performance improvement plan. You go and tell the employee, okay, it's sort of like you put the employee again on probation. So you are not doing well as intended, so I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan. The performance improvement plan, I will be measuring your performance, and I will be trying to give you a chance to correct your performance. Either you, by the end of the period, usually it's limited to a period, let's say 3 months. By the end of each month, there should be another review, a formal review. If you are not maintaining it by the end of the 3 months, you are out. Reward or correct. So this is the carrot and the stick. What does it? The correct. So it's always better to reward good performance, but sometimes you need to correct. You need to take disciplinary measures. The final stage of the performance management step is to act based on correct outcomes. If the employee is now performing at the expecting level, the manager delivers positive feedback. Rewards can be physical or intangible. Sometimes physical rewards are important, but recognition is also very important, and different people have different needs. Recognizing someone for good performance is a good way to tell them. Rewards can be training opportunities, recognition at annual meetings, certificates, celebratory lunches, or bonuses. Persistent failure to meet job or behavioral expectations leads to disciplinary process and possibly termination after 1 or more formal written warnings. As we said, again, everything related to employee performance should be properly documented to avoid legal consequences later on, because even in Qatar, they can take you to a labor court and tell you are firing me haphazardly. There is no reason. You have prejudice against me. Whereas if you have the proper records, you'll be protecting yourself from that. Another thing that's mentioned is that sometimes why performance evaluations. We'll come to that. Okay, guide professional development. You as a successful manager will be successful when we all have personal goals. we all are on a path to grow. We all want to be better. This is human nature. And this is, if you start from that universal thing, we all want to grow. Whether it is your T-boy at the office or it's the CEO, all have this built into us. We all want to grow. A successful organization is an organization which aligns the aspirations of individuals with that of the organization. And you as a manager will grow when you align the aspirations of your team with that of your organizational requirements. For that sense, you should be helping their employees for their professional development. You have sometimes people who say, okay, look, I'm now, for example, technical, but I like to be involved in sales, or I like to be specialized in more in technical. I'm working on a master's and I would like to have the opportunity to be able to move as a head of technical in the organization. If you understand that and have that conversation with your employees, you will be able to understand how to guide them. A manager should not plan the employee future, but can commit to a lifelong learning and complete an individual development plan. So development plan means like you're aligning the employee's requirement for his personal growth to that of the organization. The organization can assist career and professional development by providing tuition reimbursements. Some organizations help the employees by providing them, for example, 50% of whatever degree they pursue. They can also involve providing mentoring, job rotation, cross-training. Let's say someone who's interested, let's say, I'm an HVAC technician, please move me from operations, move me into construction, things like that. So you can provide these opportunities to your employees to handle that. Mentoring is when you go and provide them mentoring, and an employee can go and meet with someone senior on the organization to mentor them, they can meet frequently every 1 month or so to tell them, okay, I am on this. Some organizations have formal processes for mentoring. Performance appraisal. We are now at slide 46. Okay, we are on track. Performance appraisal is coming of three components: a formal evaluation of the employee's performance against job competencies or key performance indicators. So appraisal. So after we've defined the appraisal requirements, what we need from the employee, gave them the targets, set the objectives with them. And after a period, we go and sit down with them with a performance appraisal. Usually a performance appraisal will include a formal evaluation of the employee performance against job competencies or key performance indicators or objectives in a different way. It's not mandated, but it's usually better to have a meeting in which evaluation is communicated to the employee. So it's better to have a meeting with your employees and to tell them that this you did, this you did not did. That's why I'm rating you this much. A corrective action plan, if necessary, needs to be taken. Let's say someone who is way off track from this, they are put on a process improvement plan or performance improvement plan or a corrective action plan. They can be formal and informal appraisals. So if we talk about continuous feedback, maybe we don't need to make it wait till the end of the year and document it. We can make an informal one and call them to the office and tell them, look, you are supposed to be handling this facility and handling the budget for this facility as a facility manager, but you are running off the budget. You are not taking care of this. You need to do a correction for it. So, or you can go and tell them the other way around, that I am very happy with your performance. Please continue this. I have other opportunities for you. Keep the performance and I will support you. So both informal and formal appraisals are essential to an effective performance management system. Despite of all of these sciences into HR performance, many organizations perform poorly when it comes to performance appraisal, and there are several reasons for that. Conflict and emotion. We are not machines. some employees we like just for the sake we like, even though their technical performance is not as others. We are in the end subjective beings. We try to be as objective as we can, but some people we simply like. We even don't know why we like them. So because emotion is involved, so some people we hate. This is a human fact, even though technically they might be good. So a good manager is that who's able to become as fair as possible and to dissociate themselves. So sometimes even employees, if you don't really like on a personal level, still they're doing their required tasks. You don't interfere with them. On the contrary, you encourage them. Another reason for failure of this is that performance appraisal is usually linked to compensation. So it's linked to your bonus and things like that. And that creates sometimes a gap in the way people that look at things. They find, okay, there is less bonus, or you like this person more, so you're trying to give me better things. Lack of confidence in performance measures and how they are used. I think this is a very common problem, is that employees lack the confidence on the fairness of the system that's used. Different theories have been made on the performance evaluation. And sometimes organizations just make a performance appraisal and in the end, okay, decide we'll give half a month bonus for everyone, 2-month bonus. So that really destroys the idea of a performance evaluation. An effective performance appraisal involves having a positive and constructive focus, progress towards long-term goals, valid and specific key performance, effective appraisal, training of the evaluators. So sometimes training of the evaluators can go a long way. Training of the people, how to evaluate your people. Documentation is very important again, whatever we're doing this. A limitation of performance appraisal system could be the conflicts with the IFMA organizational values and unrealistic time demands. Sometimes people don't have the time to sit down with their employees. I mentioned one performance appraisal method earlier, which we call it a 360-degree feedback. Again, this is becoming more common now. Not all organizations adopt it, but again, we're moving more towards a democratic workplace in which, and I work in an organization where we rated the CEO. So you are rated not only, and this is done actually, why they do that, so that to ensure that you are not really, your fate in the organization is not tied to your boss. Maybe you don't have a personal good relationship with your boss, but you're a good employee. So that's why you have a 360 feedback. So where, for example, and also it helps that because, so you are rated by your manager, you're rated by your customers. So not only you're rated by your peers. Maybe you're very friendly at the workplace and helpful, and you are good with your customers, but you're having some issues with your managers. That's why the system was devised. And even for a manager, for them to secure that he is in place, when a manager is rated by the direct reports, the people reporting to him, he will tend, or she will tend to be more open with them, more two-way channel with them. It becomes less dictatorship, because in the end, if your employees feel rate you as a bad boss, this is bad for you. So this is a good thing, 360 feedback. Conducting performance appraisal meeting. As I said previously, a meeting is not required, but it is recommended. It can help prevent a poor appraisal from turning into litigation, as an angry employee charges the employer with discrimination or unfair and capricious behavior. As I said, when things go south with employees, it can become ugly. When you are having to remove an employee, when you're having to terminate someone, it's not a pleasant experience, and things can go south very quickly. People can object, people can go and report you, people can create problems. So that's why it's very important to make the relationship professional, not personal, and they have to understand that this is about their performance. And when it's put in a documented way and say that, okay, look, when we hired you, we told you you're going to be measured against employee customer satisfaction. All the people that have dealt with you have said that you are not a good client. On so and so date, I received this from the client. On so and so date, I received this feedback. On so and so date, we have this email. So you are creating a case to show that you are treating with them objectively, and then that it's nothing personal. So, and also in case they go and object, you have the valid reasons to defend your position. Managing for diversity. Diversity in the workplace is a big thing now. We find all the multinational organizations talk about diversity. We in Qatar are living in a very diverse workplace. If I look maybe in the nationalities of the people in the class, I'm sure I will have more than 5, 6, maybe 10 nationalities. Even diversity is not only related to the race and nationality. Diversity is happening based on age, experience, based on sex, male, female, and so on. So these organizations, the multinational organizations, they promote diversity in the workplace, not only because of the image that they want to portray, but also because if you're having, they found there are many advantages of having a diverse workforce. When you're having a diverse workforce, you're having a better look at the problems. You're looking at it from different angles. So let's say if you have a company, let's say with an average age of people above 50 or 40 something, they will not be able to understand what the young generation requires. Similarly, for a smaller organization, for another organization which have a very younger age. So when you're having males, females, young, old people, people from different nationalities, different insights, different cultures, think differently, look at things differently. That's why these multinational companies are multinational and everywhere, because they understand the local cultures, because they have people in their teams who understand that. That's why they come with very localized products to you, which appeal to you. McDonald's comes and makes, and we talked about it in the region-centric approach and different approaches multinational organizations have towards the markets in which they operate. That's why McDonald's comes or KFC comes and makes a rice meal here, because they have people in the team who understand the culture here and they provide a customized product. So diversity provides quality solutions, provides innovation, different ways of looking at this, better customer awareness, as I said, because when you're having women, they think different from men, they look at things differently. We accept the differences, we acknowledge them, we don't go against them, we consider them as a reason for richness. Aligning policies with diversities. Various methods by which a facility manager can encourage diversity. So IFMA is encouraging diversity. Sometimes even if you have a fresh graduate, they come with fresh ideas. They come and challenge the status quo. So you can have someone who has 15, 20 years of experience, who's used in doing things in a certain way, and they are fixated on it. And then you have a fresh graduate, fresh out of the box, and comes with an out-of-the-box idea, which can be very helpful. So ensuring that hiring and job assignments are based on performance and organizational policies, removing barriers to advancement that are not based on performance, experience, or education requirements, providing opportunities for career development in an equitable manner to all function members. So diversity starts with recruiting, and I mentioned previously for these organizations, to some go to the extent where they hide your race, age, they hide everything personal about you, and they give it to a third-party recruiter who doesn't look at it. They only look at your qualifications, and they hire you based on that. Sometimes they hire based on diversity. If you look in Procter & Gamble and whatever, if you tell them that you're from a minority, they will actually give you better points, because they want to have an organization which has all facets of the society. We reached the questions. Let us look into that. We are at 9:30 now. Okay. An IFMA organization, today's session was a bit long, but I hope it was interesting. An IFMA organization has never had a written procedure for purchasing. New employees were simply shown the forms to use and were told to direct the completed form. In the course of introducing a new and more detailed purchasing process, the leader of the organization realizes that everyone has been using different standards for when to use the form and has interpreted the forms differently. What would best explain this? So we have an IFMA organization, and there was no, usually divide the questions when they are long. There was no written procedure. Employees were simply shown the forms, so they were only shown the forms and were told, so blah, 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 blah. The problem is that everyone has been using different standards for when to use the form and has interpreted the forms differently. What is the reason?
The new employees were never trained. B.
Alpha?
Yeah.
A.
It is alpha. Why? Why not beta? Because it never mentions that these are new employees.
Alpha.
So here it mentions new employees. It doesn't mention new employees. It says that there was a procedure. Even the older employees are interpreting it differently. Which of the following defines ergonomics? I mentioned ergonomics in my definition. Which one is it?
Yeah. Again, A.
Alpha.
Yes. Which of the following best illustrates the developmental activity of mentoring? When you are mentoring an employee.
Delta.
Delta? Yes, you are right. The first one, an assistant manager is assigned to different areas within the organization for a 2-month period. This is what we call job rotation. An experienced technician is assigned to a new hired technician to model performance and assist in introducing the new employee to the organization. This is called coaching. A facility manager meets with a subordinate to discuss career opportunities within the facility organization. This is called career planning. Out of this delta is where a facility manager meets periodically with a manager in a different part of the facility organization to discuss ways to advance in the profession. A building manager is demonstrating to a new assistant manager. So you see sometimes the questions are long. You have to see what the question is asking for and to go through the clutter. A building manager is demonstrating to a new assistant manager how to produce a report from the building's computerized maintenance management system. The manager, so the building manager is demonstrating. So he is demonstrating to a new assistant. So this is an on-the-job training, right? The manager has performed because he's demonstrating. He's not making a theoretical presentation. Demonstrating, it means doing an actual demonstration. The manager has performed the steps while simultaneously explaining the process as the assistant manager watched. What should happen next in this on-the-job training?
C.
C.
Charles.
So, C, Charles.
Okay, anyone else?
B.
It is B. Why?
B.
So, why? We are talking about
B.
on-the-job training. We're not talking about theoretical training. In an on-the-job training, let's say I am doing a training for you how to fix a light switch. After I finish fixing the light switch, I'm doing an on-job training. Okay, it can help if I show you, I give you a document for you to go and read at home how to fix a light switch. But it will be much more effective if I tell you, okay, I fixed the light switch in front of you. I take you to another light switch. I tell you, okay, you now do it. So it is B. It's an on-the-job training. Employees have been coming to appraisal meetings unprepared. because they have already been told that there will not be raises this year. What mistake has the organization made? So if there is no raises and there is no...
What is the reason for appraisal?
No, but this is where you are mistaken. No.
Yeah.
See, you can be fired because of poor performance. There is no raise, but you can be fired, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So, or you can be, for example, no raise, but you can be promoted to a different section or things like that.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes the economical situations prevent organizations from providing raises or bonuses, but that doesn't mean that your job as an employee should not be evaluated. So what are the mistakes? What's the mistake?
C.
Exam meeting should not have been late.
Number C.
I think the A, alpha.
C is
Alpha.
correct.
Alpha.
I think.
Appraisal meetings should not have been linked with the communication raises.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's what we mentioned earlier. A reason why a performance appraisals fail, because if they are linked to the financial performance and the financial performance cannot be met. A facility manager is disappointed with the technician's performance during the last emergency drill. So he is disappointed with the technician's performance during the last emergency drill. So the last emergency drill. And lowers the technician's performance rating as a result. How is this evaluation ineffective?
Bravo. Much weight on the most recent event. B.
It places too much weight on.
B. You are right, guys, because they're saying the last emergency drill and they are demoting the person based on that. Okay, a manager is struggling to explain how a project will unfold to a building engineer who is more comfortable reading manual and system schematics. So a manager is struggling to an engineer who is comfortable in reading manuals and schematics. What would probably be the most effective communication strategy here?
Flow chart A.
D.
Delta.
A.
Delta.
See, for
I
those
think the
D, look.
Flow chart.
Just a minute. You have to see, look at the hints in the answer. The hint is that reading manuals and system schematics. So he is a person, if you remember the communication module, we talked about visual learning. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, and some people are kinesthetic.
Flow chart. Create a flow
That's
chart.
why the flow chart.
Yes.
So this is a person who likes to learn visually, and that's why the flow chart. The team meetings is about kinesthetic or auditory, or someone is hearing it from others. Which of the following statements about performance appraisal is correct? No one?
Formal discussion and total job performance. C.
Yes, you are right. Because it's not an alternative method of performance management. Performance appraisal is part of performance management. It involves only the manager, not necessary. It can be a 360-degree performance appraisal, and it involves the manager, the employee, the colleagues. Delta, it's another term for coaching. No, coaching is not performance appraisal, is not coaching. Coaching is when I take you and I show you how things are done. So that was it for tonight. Any questions?
Tonight class was very long.
This is very much confusing, boss, actually.
What's confusing?
Means the objective ties,
the what?
The answers are seem very much close by to each other. So
you will now they seem confusing because you are just taking the course. When you start reading the material, you will find that
Okay.
each and every answer of those, okay, is coming
Okay.
from the book.
Okay, hope so.
No, I'm telling you, and you can trust me
Okay.
on this one. Each and
Okay.
every item is detailed in the book. Nothing is coming from outside.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you on
Thank
Wednesday.
you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night. Take it. Bye. Bye.
Well,
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.